They called it a cinematic dream, but behind the curtain, The Sound of Music was anything but a fairy tale. Christopher Plummer, who played the dashing Captain Von Trapp, was so disenchanted by the project that he jokingly dubbed it The Sound of Mucus. That warm, sweeping opening scene with Julie Andrews spinning on the mountaintop? It took brutal effort. Wind from the helicopter knocked her to the ground not once, but 9 times. The camera didn't capture the cold, the exhaustion, or the mud. The cast spent 11 relentless weeks under near-constant Austrian rain, soaking in discomfort while filming a story that the world would come to see as pure magic. But magic was the illusion. What they lived was sheer grit. Long before Hollywood stepped in, the real Maria von Trapp's life unfolded like something far more dramatic than the musical ever portrayed. Born aboard a train to Vienna in 1905, Maria was orphaned early and raised by a stern uncle who despised the church. Ironically, that harsh beginning led her to Catholicism, and eventually to a convent in Salzburg. But destiny wasn't done redirecting her. Assigned to be a governess for a naval widower's sickly daughter, Maria stepped into a house that would redefine her future. Though 25 years his junior, she married Georg von Trapp in 1927, sealing a union that was less about romance and more about duty, at least at first. Years later, after Georg's death in 1947, Maria was urged to put her story on paper. She scribbled a few pages just to prove she couldn't write. But instead, she unearthed a raw and honest voice. By 1949, her memoir, The Story of the Trapp Family Singers, was a surprise bestseller. Still, Maria couldn't help but laugh at the way she was portrayed in the musical. According to her, the real Maria was headstrong, fiery, and anything but angelic. Those who knew her agreed. Julie Andrews brought charm, but Maria brought fire. Before Broadway lit up with The Sound of Music, Germany had already embraced the story. In 1956, the Trapp family film hit European screens and became a post-war phenomenon. Modest in scale, it resonated deeply with audiences still healing from history's wounds. Paramount Pictures initially snapped up the rights, eyeing Audrey Hepburn for the lead. But when director Vincent J. Dunhue saw the German version, he realized the story's power went beyond a conventional film. He pitched it as a musical instead, with Broadway's Mary Martin in mind. Paramount balked, Hepburn became unavailable, and the project crumbled. Enter 20th Century Fox. In 1960, they took a $1.25 million leap and secured the rights. A bold move while bleeding money from the chaotic Cleopatra production. But sometimes fortune favors the fearless. Originally, the story was going to be a gentle play peppered with folk songs. That changed the moment Rodgers and Hammerstein stepped in. They refused to recycle old melodies. Instead, they demanded a fresh, original score. That insistence gave birth to timeless anthems like Do Re Mi and My Favorite Things. Sadly, Oscar Hammerstein passed just 9 months after the show's Broadway debut, making it their final joint masterpiece. When the curtain rose in 1959, it did so with thunderous applause. The musical ran for over 1,400 performances, winning 5 Tony Awards and breaking pre-sale ticket records with over $2 million sold even before opening night. But adapting that success to the screen meant new challenges. Richard Rodgers penned 2 new songs for the film version. Casting, too, became a delicate dance. Julie Andrews was not yet a Hollywood superstar in 1964. Studio heads were nervous. She had charm, but not box office clout. Director Robert Wise had his doubts, even listing safer alternatives like Grace Kelly and Shirley Jones. Then, fate stepped in. One night, Wise and screenwriter Ernest Lehman screened an early cut of Mary Poppins at Disney. Within minutes, they were stunned. Wise whispered urgently, "Let's sign her before someone else does." Andrews was offered a modest $225,000 for The Sound of Music and another film. Even after signing, Julie was hesitant. She asked Wise how he planned to take the sugar out of the story. That question sealed it. He had chosen the right Maria. But while Julie locked in her destiny, another battle played out behind closed doors. Christopher Plummer loathed musicals. He turned down the role multiple times. Wise even considered big names like Bing Crosby and Yul Brynner. But he kept circling back to Plummer, eventually flying to London to convince him. A deal was struck. Plummer could reshape the captain into someone with wit and emotional depth. He requested a solo number to reveal the captain's inner life. Though he eventually signed on, Plummer still cracked jokes on set, calling the film S&M to lighten the mood. Casting the Von Trapp children was its own mountain to climb. They needed kids who could sing, act, and feel like a family. Hundreds auditioned, including familiar faces like Kurt Russell, Patty Duke, and Mia Farrow, who tried 3 times for Liesl. But Wise felt she lacked the energy and rhythm. Daniel Trujillo, who played Rolf, got his part quickly thanks to his voice. Yet his first scene was actually Rolf's final betrayal, forcing him to develop the character's arc in reverse. From innocent love to ideological divide. Behind the camera, transformations were intense. Julie Andrews, a natural brunette, suffered a chemical hair mishap during pre-production. Her hair turned neon orange. There wasn't time for a slow fix. They bleached it blonde. It worked on screen, but it wasn't her. For Trujillo, things were worse. Repeated bleaching to match the ideal look caused permanent hair damage. He later admitted it cost him half his hair, something no one warned him about, and a silent price he paid for years. Even with filming in full swing, local enthusiasm in Salzburg was muted. Most Austrians barely noticed the Hollywood buzz happening in their backyard. Peter Husty of the Salzburg Museum admitted he didn't even know what the film was during his youth. Locals felt the movie romanticized war and painted their country in a dim light. To them, it was less celebration, more oversimplification. But that's what makes this story so gripping. Beneath the glossy surface of a beloved musical lies a tale of resistance, doubt, loss, and transformation. The actors were cast not just in roles, but into an experience that would mark them for life. And the world they brought to life? It was born not from fantasy, but from the relentless pursuit of authenticity, even in the face of rain, chemicals, rejection, and fear. When the cast and crew of The Sound of Music first touched down in Salzburg in early 1964, they were filled with hope and excitement. They had no idea that what was supposed to be a smooth 6-week shoot would unravel into a drenched, chaotic 11-week endurance test. Rain became their greatest enemy. It didn't just delay scenes, it nearly drowned the spirit of the production. Do Re Mi, a number that now radiates joy, required 9 different locations and nearly 2 months of filming, all thanks to relentless downpours. Whenever skies turned stormy, the crew scrambled into cramped chapels or makeshift studios. For scenes that needed sun, they had to simulate it with blinding lights imported from across Europe. At one point, it seemed like every available generator and floodlight on the continent had been rerouted to Salzburg. And while lighting was a nightmare, logistics weren't any kinder. Managing over 250 people, actors, crew, assistants, you name it, meant housing, feeding, and transporting a small army. Costs began to skyrocket, and time wasn't on their side. The kids, who needed to appear frozen in time, were growing up before their very eyes. Nicholas Hammond shot up 6 inches mid-production. He started in lifts, ended up barefoot. Charmian Carr had to stand on boxes to maintain her older sister's stature. Even little Debbie Turner lost her baby teeth on set, requiring dentists to craft perfect replacements, so her on-screen appearance stayed consistent. It was as if time itself was trying to sabotage the film. Nothing shows the behind-the-scenes madness more than the boating scene. Sweet-faced Kim Karath, just 5 years old and playing Gretel, couldn't swim. Julie Andrews discovered this horrifying fact moments before filming. When the boat capsized, the director captured a beautiful shot, but chaos broke out. Andrews instinctively dove in, but fell the wrong way, briefly leaving Kim submerged. By the time Andrews got to her, Kim had swallowed water and was hysterical. She threw up after being rescued, and the terrifying experience haunted her for life. The charming family moment captured on screen masked a near disaster behind it. Even the opening shot, Julie Andrews spinning in an idyllic field, was anything but graceful. Each time the helicopter circled her for a perfect shot, the downdraft slammed her flat onto the grass. 9 brutal takes. Dirt in her mouth, hay in her hair, bruises all over. She begged the pilot to adjust, but he just grinned and gave a thumbs up. That now iconic moment came at a painful price. Charmian Carr, the actress behind Liesel, had her own backstage horror story. During the romantic 16 going on 17 scene inside the gazebo, the costume department forgot to rubberize her shoes. One leap later, she went sliding, crashed through a glass pane, and sprained her ankle. But Carr, ever determined, insisted on finishing the scene. Bandaged and bruised, she danced on, giving us a performance so seamless, most viewers never knew anything had gone wrong. Then there was Christopher Plummer, the man behind the stoic Captain Von Trapp. Austria might have enchanted him, but the film? Not so much. He fought. While the rest of the cast battled rain, Plummer indulged in local wines and pastries. His waistline expanded to the point where costume alterations became a necessity. He even admitted to being tipsy during the emotional Edelweiss performance. Beneath the sarcasm and frustration, though, was a young actor struggling to find depth in a character he believed was painfully one-dimensional. But rather than walk away, Plummer fought to elevate the role. He demanded Captain Von Trapp be portrayed as sharp, stoic, and clipped in manner, so that his eventual emotional transformation would carry weight. Director Robert Wise agreed. Screenwriter Ernest Lehman even credited Plummer later for deepening the film's emotional core. Ironically, the man who tried hardest to reshape the movie ended up being one of its strongest pillars. The young cast wasn't spared either. The bicycle sequence, which now looks like innocent fun, took months of grueling practice. The children rehearsed tirelessly before even stepping foot in Salzburg. And strict child labor laws meant that every minute of shooting had to be meticulously timed. There were whispers of dual casting to stretch the schedule, but the team stuck with their original 7, often racing the clock to get scenes just right. Despite the tensions, something magical emerged from the chaos. Julie Andrews herself had serious doubts going in. She feared the movie might drown in sentiment. Too sweet, too saccharine, too perfect. The rolling hills, the adorable children, the songs that felt larger than life. It all teetered on the edge of being too much. But Andrews found balance in Plummer. His grounding energy gave her someone to push against. Their on-screen chemistry was electric, driven by that constant tug-of-war. Off-camera, the two developed a friendship that lasted decades. She later confessed that without him, the movie would have floated away on charm alone. Behind all the music, however, was a secret the studio kept tightly under wraps: Plummer's singing voice. When it came time to record Edelweiss, they decided his vocals weren't strong enough. Instead of telling the audience, they quietly blended his performance with that of a professional singer named Bill Lee. For decades, fans believed they were hearing Plummer. Not until 2023, nearly 60 years later, did his original untouched track finally surface. He was long gone by then, having passed at 91, but hearing his true voice gave fans a whole new layer of connection to the man they thought they already knew. The irony of it all? Despite every delay, injury, and moment of backstage tension, The Sound of Music didn't just survive. It soared. It won 5 Oscars, pulled in close to $300 million, and became a cinematic touchstone for generations. Plummer may have resisted the legacy, but in the end, the film became part of his soul. And no matter how much he poked fun at it, the world will always remember him standing tall as Captain Von Trapp, frozen in time, his story stitched into movie history forever. By the time the Nazis took control of Austria in 1938, the truth behind the Von Trapp family's life had already taken a drastically different path than the one Hollywood painted. Maria and Georg weren't newlyweds discovering love. They had already been married for 11 years and were raising 2 daughters, with a 3rd child on the way. That wide-eyed teenage daughter Liesel from the film? She never existed. The oldest Von Trapp child was Rupert, a fully grown man and a practicing doctor. It's almost shocking how far removed the real story was from the romanticized version adored by audiences around the world. And even more startling, Maria wasn't in love with Georg when she said, "I do." She was honest about it, saying she liked him, but her heart belonged elsewhere. What drew her in wasn't the man, it was the children. She had no plans to become a captain's wife. Her dream had always been to take her vows as a nun. When Georg proposed, she panicked, retreating to the abbey for guidance. And there, she was told it was God's will. On her wedding day, Maria felt a quiet fury toward both fate and her new husband. But what truly convinced her was not a romantic gesture. It was Georg's plea for her to become a second mother to his children. Had he asked for her hand in the traditional way, she believed she would have turned him down. And that elegant, poised baroness in the film? She was based on Princess Yvonne, a woman who wasn't ready to be a mother figure to a large family. Her plan was to send the Von Trapp kids off to boarding school. But when she realized Georg's affections were drifting toward Maria, she made a dramatic exit, and not before stirring scandal by accusing him of impregnating Maria before their marriage. Hollywood, wisely, left that chapter out. One of the most iconic moments in the film, the daring climb over the Alps to freedom, never happened. In real life, Maria joked that had they tried it, they would have wandered straight into Nazi Germany. Instead, their escape was quiet, even ordinary. They walked to the train station carrying only what they could and boarded a train under the guise of taking a family vacation. Julie Andrews earned a Golden Globe for her performance, and decades later, the movie's legacy only grew stronger. It was selected for preservation in the U.S. National Film Registry, and its soundtrack was later honored by the National Recording Registry. At the center of all this cultural impact was Julie Andrews, whose own life took on a Cinderella-like arc. From her early days as a Broadway star to becoming an icon of elegance and warmth, her career was nothing short of magical. Financially, Andrews built an empire of grace. She owned a classic Rolls-Royce, a Bentley Continental, and was known to wear luxury watches from brands like Cartier and Patek Philippe. Her Malibu estate, estimated at over $20 million, served as a quiet retreat from Hollywood's chaos. She traveled often by private jet and invested in children's publishing, co-authoring dozens of books. Andrews also partnered with brands aligned with her wholesome image. Behind the scenes, she maintained comprehensive insurance policies, protecting her vocal assets and real estate. Her approach to wealth, invest conservatively, align with your values, and build multiple income streams, offers a blueprint for financial longevity in showbiz. From fact to fiction, legacy to luxury, The Sound of Music's true story is wilder than the movie. Like, comment, and subscribe for more untold Hollywood secrets. After all, legends never sing off-key.